meet my bride. Let's go for a ride in my newfangled automobile. Just where we will go, nobody knows, but it's sure a great way to feel. Behind the wheel of the Speed Meter Steel, it's my newfangled automobile.
Hello and welcome to Vintage Car History. I'm Wild Bill. Who built the best car of the vintage era? I'm sure we can all agree that it wasn't Edward Pennington, but choosing just one car and thus one engineer behind the car would be quite a debate. Different people have different personal opinions about what makes a car the best, and usually a bit of national bias is thrown into the mix. But regardless of one's patriotism or personal criteria about car qualities, it's fair to say that Rolls-Royce will be a consistent top pick. So let's take a look at the man behind the car, Henry Royce. The youngest of 5 children, Frederick Henry Royce was born in 1863 to James and Mary. The family lived in Alwalton, England, where his father worked at a local flour mill. Young Henry was a rather sickly child, which led him to being quite a voracious reader. Unfortunately, his father died when he was 9 years old, and since the family was rather poor, he had to find work. His first job, which he started at age 9, was for a local farmer as a scarecrow. Thankfully, the family moved to London the next year, and he found work there that was a bit more dignified as a paperboy. For the next 4 years, he sold newspapers and delivered telegrams to help support the family. Because of this, he was unable to receive a formal education, only completing 1 year of schooling. His aunt had a little money and paid for him to apprentice at the Great Northern Railway, which he began at age 14. It was at Great Northern that he learned the basics of engineering. For the next 3 years, he applied himself to hands-on training as well as reading whatever he could get his hands on about both mechanical and electrical engineering. Unfortunately, the apprenticeship was not a paid position, and after 3 years, the money ran out and he was again forced to find a job. He briefly worked for a tool-making company before landing a position with Electric Power and Light Company as an electrical engineer in 1880. He worked at this company for the next 4 years. At first, he worked at their facility in London and was promoted and then transferred to Liverpool in 1882. Royce was quite the perfectionist, and though he was now making decent income, he was not satisfied with the quality of the products that his employer was producing. He believed he could do a much better job, and with the help of a friend of his, Ernest Claremont, founded F.H. Royce and Company in 1884. Located in Manchester, initially the firm manufactured simple electrical fittings and switches for domestic use, and Royce's personal motto, "Nothing but the best," was reflected in the quality of his products. Both his company and his reputation grew quickly. Henry was passionate about quality and innovation, showing his employees through his own example how to build the best. The people at his company loved the man, calling him Pa, and he expanded the company's offerings and facility. Within 10 years, F.H. Royce and Company was making industrial transformers, motors, dynamos, and even electric cranes. By 1900, Henry Royce and his company were amongst the largest and most respected firms in their industry that could be found in England, and Henry Royce was now a wealthy man. Now, Henry was interested in cars at this time, and being a man of means, decided to buy himself one. By 1903, a new industry began to grow, the used car business, and early in that year, he decided to buy a used car, a few years old French Decauville. A few months later, he announced to his staff that the car he bought was terrible, hard to start, noisy, and tended to overheat after only a few minutes of driving. He could design a much better car, and he was going to do exactly that, and they were going to build it. The Decauville had 4 wheels and a 2-cylinder engine, and Royce's design did as well. That's about the only thing these cars had in common. He came up with his own 12-horsepower engine and cast it right there in his factory. He designed the chassis for strength, the suspension for comfort, even the wheels were of his design. He built 3 of them in a matter of a few months, and on April 1st, 1904, the Royce car rolled onto the streets of Cheshire. It was quiet, smooth, and powerful. A local reporter wrote of it, "The Royce makes all other cars sound like an avalanche of tea trays." It was not only the most refined and reliable car in Britain, but in the world. A car of this level of quality would, of course, garnish attention. And the Right and Honorable Charles Stewart Rolls, Baron of Langenstock, was so impressed with it that he partnered with Royce to sell his cars around the world. The company Rolls-Royce and their cars they built would become the stuff of legend. And the young man that began his career as a scarecrow would become amongst the most celebrated Britons of all time, Sir Frederick Henry Royce, 1st Baronet of Seaton, OBE. Thanks for watching Vintage Car History, and we'll see you next week. Peace.